The New York Knicks defeat the Detroit Pistons 113-111 on Monday night in an absolute nail biter, grind of a win. And we're here to talk about this Knicks game with Brian Fonseca. Brian, how you doing, man?
Doing all right. A lot of people sweat this one out. Those rooting for the Knicks and also those in the gambling community.
Yeah.
Very much probably invested in the end, but an unexpected playoff field tonight is what we saw.
Yeah, it was a gritty grinded out win for the Knicks. Jalen Brunson puts up 35. They were up big at points in this game, but then the fourth quarter, it's like all of a sudden the Pistons are back into it. They're cutting the lead down. Evan Fournier's coming up with his steals. Quentin Grimes had 14 points in the fourth quarter, and the Knicks had to sweat it out. That final possession, I want to talk about what happened there. Josh Hart, uh, you know, it was craziness in the fact that the Knicks don't get the rebound off the missed three from Brunson. The ball gets rebounded by the Pistons. They throw it back in. Then all of a sudden, DiVincenzo comes up with it after the ball gets loose, and then he throws it away to Thompson, and then it gets stolen back with a lot of contact. I mean, you saw Monty Williams really give it to the refs after the game. He thought there was enough contact for a foul there. Foul wasn't called. The Knicks get the ball. Jalen Brunson gets it down low, and then you see the end one with Josh Hart. It's a crazy sequence. So, what is your takeaway from this game tonight and the fact that the Knicks had to really sweat it out throughout this entire game? It seems like.
Yeah, the Pistons they don't want to set some dubious records, so they're really trying to win basketball games. And this is also a little bit of a better team than we saw from them earlier this year. Cade Cunningham, who we have to mention, was great, and you could see the star potential that he has. Like there's a time where this game happens years from now, and Cade Cunningham is at a different level consistently. Like he's somebody we project will be a multiple time All Star at his peak, although he's not there yet. Jalen Duren active on the glass. Simone Fontecchio, I thought was a good pickup for them at the trade deadline as somebody that they can keep around long term as a complementary piece to what they're trying to build around Duren and around Cade Cunningham. And Quentin Grimes gets 14 points. Speaking of complementary pieces, 14 points in the fourth quarter. Evan Fournier, who I didn't think was having a great revenge game in his own right, got a couple steals late, as we talked about before we got on here. If you're the Knicks, I mean, look, they just need to pile up wins because they've been struggling to do that lately and are losing ground in the standings. This helped because the Sixers have been struggling and they're also sliding, and they're probably going to slide some more because Joel Embiid's not coming back anytime soon. We don't really have timetables on Julius Randle and OG Anunoby, at least not definitive ones, but we have an idea that they'll probably be back sooner than Joel Embiid, assuming that, things don't go left with some future updates in the near future.
Right.
But right now, the Pacers having lost tonight against the Toronto Raptors, for example, that helps the Knicks out in terms of the standings. We'll wait to see what happens with the Heat and the Kings. I have a feeling the Heat are going to make a run here. And the Orlando Magic could also, because they have the softest schedule left, or did at least right after the All-Star break, and the Heat were actually third in that department. So they're up against that as well. The Knicks, you want to maintain home court advantage in the first round of the playoffs at least. Right now, they're still in position to do that. You probably don't feel great about them sweating it out against the Detroit Pistons, but
No.
overall, they won the game. That's what matters. You take the win in the standings. You remember that you're shorthanded. And though it took a gutsy effort, it's better to do that and win as opposed to losing to a team that has, I don't know, 8 wins so far this season.
Yeah, the revenge factor definitely factored, it felt like, in this game for Grimes and Fournier. You could feel the fans, how they were reacting, booing Fournier after missed shots and at the technical foul, making cheers. Grimes, I mean, the guy, like you said, complimentary piece. He can help a team win some basketball games. But I think we look on this on the Knicks side, losing 4 out of 5 coming into tonight. They get the win. They play the Pelicans tomorrow night. If you're Tom Thibodeau, how do you think he's looking at his team's effort tonight? I mean, you kind of wasted that Brunson effort tonight with 35 and 12. That secondary scoring isn't there really, because I don't know, Brian, I don't know if you could look at a Josh Hart who's going to give you 23 points a night and a DiVincenzo going to give you 21 every night. That secondary scoring feels like it needs to be a little more consistent. So how do you think Tibbs is feeling after tonight's game when he sees how his team performed?
And this is kind of why you traded for Bojan Bogdanovic, who I think it's fair to expect more from. It's still early in his Knicks tenure, but, and he did hit a big three late in that game as well. to help put them over the top, so to speak, or at least keep the Pistons at bay temporarily. I think ultimately, when you're this shorthanded, it's going to be hard to rely on some secondary scoring on a night-to-night basis. To me, it's impressive that Jalen Brunson is still out here getting 35 casually. You know what I mean? Like, that's not something I would have projected. I know that the NBA, like where the game has gone in terms of offense, 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 and when you have a lead guard, they have to be capable of doing such things. But Jalen Brunson, like, you don't want to wear him down over the course of the season, and the overcompensating for the lack of what you have elsewhere on the roster. Yeah, that's something that could hurt you down the line if you're not careful. So that's something to watch. And oh, by the way, yes, back to back tomorrow against the Pelicans, who are well rested. Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram, they've been in and out of the injury report, but they both did play in their last game. And CJ McCollum, who got hurt in that game against the Heat over the weekend, is not, he's not going to be out for a substantial period of time as a result of the fight. The Pelicans are expected to miss Najee Marshall and Jose Alvarado, but they're mostly going to have a full squad otherwise, you would expect. So that's not going to be great for the Knicks either. Second scorer has kind of been Donte DiVincenzo over the last few weeks. And listen, he's had some really big games, 20 something plus. She's shooting a ton of 3-pointers. Is that something that's sustainable? You can watch and see that it's not. It's not really fair to expect that for Donte DiVincenzo. That's not what he was signed for. That's not what he was acquired for in the offseason. But this is where you are. I think Bojan Bogdanovic is where you should look for that secondary offense.
That was giving me my follow-up question. Is Bogdanovic that guy you're going to go to hopefully bring a ton of that secondary scoring to help aid Jalen Brunson and keep the Knicks in these games?
Yeah, that's who it should be, right? Like, this is why you made that trade. And you move a valuable piece in Quentin Grimes to do it. You didn't move like a true first round pick, which we talked about like famously in the trade deadline. They did what they did, and they didn't give up a first round pick. Same thing with the OG Anunoby trade. Didn't give up a first round pick. Gave up some quality players though. RJ Barrett had another good game tonight, by the way. Like, these are the things that you're sort of looking at as just shorthanded. And we talk about Julius Randle and how he can be sort of a frustrating player at times. And I know he pisses me off as somebody, from time to time who watches this team, obviously, throughout the season. But watching him, like, he can piss you off, but you do miss the production when he's not there.
Absolutely.
Because he's still an all-star at the end of the day. Yes, sometimes it can be clunky. Sometimes it seems like he's in his own head or whatever. But I felt like he was playing very well and at a high level at the time he got hurt. And that's the thing about this too. And OG Anunoby was also giving you some stuff offensively, and we know what he could provide on the defensive end. And not to mention, not to actually discount Mitchell Robinson, who you forget about because he's been out for so long, but sort of a piece who's a constant lob threat in a way that Isaiah Hartenstein is not. He's more of a grit and grind type of dude, and I think he's more effective in a different type of way. Like, the high points of Isaiah Hartenstein are him getting 8 points, 15 rebounds, 5 assists, different than Mitchell Robinson, right? And ideally what you want, and what I'm saying here is you want both of those guys. But going back to Bojan Bogdanovic, yes, he should be that guy consistently. Jalen Brunson needs help. Jalen Brunson also, more importantly, needs to stay healthy. So, and Tibbs is not somebody who's going to shy away from playing his main guys a boatload of minutes, as we saw against tonight, and as we'll see going forward. So the Knicks have to be careful because they're banged up, but at the same time, they got the win tonight. That's what's most important, even if it was a life and death challenge from an 8-win team in the Detroit Pistons who fought very hard.
Well, Brian, you put it perfectly there. We're looking forward to see how they bounce back again tomorrow night against the Pelicans. It's not an easy match, but appreciate you as always for giving us some time and breaking down this next game for me, so man.
Absolutely. Anytime.